Pink Communist. Marexist-LeNeinism. It was a beautiful day in Equestria, and all the ponies were out and about enjoying the sunshine and the warm breeze. Pinkie Pie was particularly excited because she had just finished reading a book about Marexist-Leninist theory and was feeling inspired. As she trotted through Ponyville, she couldn't help but notice the stark differences in wealth and power among different ponies. Some had large homes and fancy carriages, while others struggled to make ends meet. Pinkie Pie began to wonder if there was a way to create a more equal and fair society for all ponies. And she couldn't shake the idea she had learned from the book she had just read. So, she decided to throw a party and invite all of her friends to discuss newfound beliefs. Twilight Sparkle, Rarity, Applejack, Rainbow Dash, and Fluttershy all showed up, eager to hear what Pinkie had to say. As Pinkie began to explain her ideas, some of her friends looked confused or skeptical, but Pinkie Pie was passionate and determined to make them understand. She talked about the importance of workers owning the means of production and how the current system was rigged in favor of the wealthy elites. She argued that a socialist system where everyone's needs were met and wealth was distributed more fairly would be better for all ponies. Her friends listened intensely, and while they weren't all convinced, they could see the fire in Pinkie's eyes and respected her passion. In the weeks that followed, Pinkie Pie continued to read and learn more about Marxist-Leninist theory, and even started attending rallies and protests in support of workers' rights. She was the same Pinkie Pie her friends had always known and loved, but now she had a new mission, and she was determined to spread the word of socialism throughout Equestria. And her friends watched her become more and more involved in the movement. They couldn't help but feel proud of their friend, and they even inspired to learn more about the principles she was fighting for. Pinkie Pie's enthusiasm for the cause was contagious, and soon many of the other ponies in Ponyville began to take notice to her activism. They were impressed by her knowledge and passion, and they even joined her in attending rallies and protests. As Pinkie Pie's movements grew, so did the opposition from the wealthy elite who were determined to maintain their power and control over Equestria. They tried to discredit Pinkie Pie and her ideas, but she remained steadfast in her beliefs and continued to fight for the better future of all ponies. With the support of her friends and the growing number of ponies who shared her vision, Pinkie Pie became a leading voice in the fight for workers' rights and more equal society. And while there were still many challenges and obstacles to overcome, Pinkie Pie and her friends were determined to keep pushing forward, knowing that they were fighting for a cause that was bigger than themselves. In the end, their efforts paid off, and Equestria became more equal and just society, and everyone having access to the resources and opportunities they needed to thrive, and Pinkie Pie was the unlikely revolutionary who had hailed as a hero and symbol of hope for all those who believed in the better future. With her newfound fame, Pinkie Pie found herself in a unique position to spread the word of socialism even further. She was invited to speak at conferences and events across Equestria, sharing her experiences and insights with ponies from all walks of life. As Pinkie continued to inspire others, she also began to see the impact of her work firsthand. She visited factories and farms across Equestria, talking to workers and seeing the improvements that had made since the socialist reforms had been put in place. She was filled with pride and joy to see the changes that she and her friends had worked so hard for, and it was only fueled by her determination to keep fighting for a better world. But as much progress they had made, there were still those who opposed the socialist movement. Some of the wealthy elite were still resistant to change and were determined to maintain their power and privilege at all costs. Pinkie Pie and her friends knew that the fight was far from over, but they were not deterred. They continued to organize and mobilize, building a stronger and more united movement for each passing day. And as the years went by, the equestrian towns continued to grow and prosper under the socialist system. The ponies were happier and healthier than they ever were before, and the gap between the rich and poor had been significantly reduced in smaller villages. Pinkie Pie had become a beloved figure across the land, and her legacy lived on after she ended her political career. Her friends and followers continued to carry on her work, building a brighter future for all ponies and inspiring others to join the fight for a more just and equitable world. As the socialist movement in Equestria gained momentum, Pinkie Pie's friends knew that they couldn't rest on their laurels. They were up against a powerful and entrenched system of capitalism that had been built up over generations, and it wasn't going to be dismantled overnight. They continued to work tirelessly, organizing protests and rallies, building coalitions with other groups fighting for socialist justice, and pushing for policy changes that would benefit the working ponies of Equestria. But they also knew that they needed to do more than just fight against capitalism. They needed to offer an alternative version of what a better world could look like. So Pinkie's friends worked to promote a new set of values that put people and the planet first. They advocated for a system that prioritized the common good over individual gain, that recognized the inherent dignity of the worth of every pony, and that protected the environment for future generations. It wasn't an easy fight, and they faced plenty of setbacks along the way. The wealthy elites pushed back hard against their efforts, using their power and influences to undermine the movement at every turn. But Pinkie Pie and her friends were undetermined. They knew that their stakes were too high to give up, and they believed in the power of the collective action to create meaningful change. As the years went by, their persistence and determination paid off. More and more ponies began to see the benefits of a socialist system, and the movement gained even more momentum. And eventually, after many years of struggle, they succeeded. Equestria became a socialist society with an economy that was owned and controlled by the working ponies themselves. The wealth was distributed more fairly, and everyone had access to the resources they needed to thrive. It wasn't a perfect system, of course. There were still challenges and injustices that needed to be addressed, but Pinkie Pie and her friends knew that they had laid the foundation for a better world, one where everyone could live in dignity and equality, and that was a legacy that they could be proud of. Well, that was something, I'll tell you that. It was quite interesting, and yeah, I kind of enjoyed it, but yeah, that's it, really. But also, you might be wondering why I did a one-shot instead of doing another chapter. It's because there's not a whole lot more chapters left. There's only 14, and at the rate I'm going, I'm gonna be done with that really soon. So I wanted to branch off to some other stuff, and well, make sure I don't run out of time on that, because the story that Questionable Ethics only has 14 chapters I still have to go through. Or no, 15. And the story's been halted, so there hasn't been writing going on for the next chapter yet. So that's the reason why. So don't worry, there might be more chapters pretty soon. Yeah. But, yeah, that's really it. So, I guess, stay golden, have a good afternoon or night.